Hello, everybody. I am yet again Price McKinney, simply put. And as always, I want to thank you for tuning in and listening. So, I was out of town last week. I'm currently on vacation. I was on vacation last week. Um, and sometimes for me, that can throw my schedule off because I'm routine oriented and I keep track of time, keep track of stuff I got to do. So sometimes it kind of throws me off, but I'm good. I actually did a podcast last week. I was out of town and I did it there. It was actually a live setting, an actual studio. It was off the charts. Stay tuned for that. Once I get it, I'll send that out. So Facebook, let's get fit. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, simply put, by Price McKinney. Most importantly, go to YouTube. Simply put, podcast with Price McKinney, YouTube on Tuesdays. Want to hear it go. So I've sat on this for a minute, for a long minute. I normally take, jot down a couple of notes, read over them, process. But this has been marinating. I love grilling, so marinating is kind of a second nature for me. I had a very interesting happening, I guess you could say. So, and I need you to stay with me on this because it's gonna sound kind of cockeyed crazy, but it's not. It's really significant. Um, so a couple of weeks ago, um, lady I knew passed. Right. It just happened to be. This was literally. I was 17 at the time. It was like one of my first quote unquote girlfriends. Now, fast forward, uh, we haven't been communicating, haven't been in contact. Um, we did have minimal communication back in, I want to say 2019, right? And within that, I was 17, she was a year younger. Um, we were freaking kids. Kids do what kids do. So we broke up. It was a short relationship. Um, whatever. So found out she passed, and it was kind of startling to me because I didn't know quote unquote anything was wrong with her, anything like that. And again, I didn't have any way of contacting her or whatever, so there was no way for me to keep up with her. So it just kind of, sometimes things happen and they just kind of they give you that little poke and just and of course I was like, that God, that's pretty sad, kind of jacked up in its own way. And so, for whatever reason, I went back in my yearbook because I remember distinctly she had signed two whole pages in my yearbook. Now, granted, I graduated in 1990, but I still have my yearbook. Um, so I went back and read it, not to, rekindle what I felt back then, anything like that. I couldn't, even when I did it, it didn't really make sense as to why I was doing it until after I finished reading it. So I went back and I read the two pages, and man, this is what I came to discover because I started writing poems when I was 17. Um, First real quote unquote relationship was 17. Actually, the first poem that I ever wrote was about her, ironically. And so when I went back and read what was in the yearbook, the thing that I discovered, I was like, wait a minute, man, time out on the court. I realized what is the difference between the price at 17 and the price at 52? Because what became blatantly obvious and clear, who I was then is the same guy that I am now. Because over the years, who you are does not change. What happens is in between that dash, when you figure whatever out is about you that you figure out, who you are doesn't change. You're still that same person. And as I call it, over the years, I've learned, especially now, you trim, quote unquote, trim the fat, shave the fat, however you want to put it, and you do what's necessary to make you become better. What I realized in reading what she wrote in my yearbook was I have heard this in just about every freaking relationship I've been in. You're a great guy. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do that. I've never been treated like this before. Blase, skip, skip, da 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 da. Same song, and it hit me in a different way. I wasn't sad. I wasn't, I didn't make me emotional. But what it did is it helped me to understand, dude, this is just you. Now, again, who is that? I'm very attentive, nurturing in my own way, focused, if you will, all the above. For the most part, just about all the characteristics that a woman would want to have in a man in terms of the affection, the attention, those type things. Now, fast forward, what I've also discovered is because of that, because that's been there for so long, and because at some point it started being taken advantage of, you can't just come in that easy. So again, that's why I say you learn and you adjust according to who you are at this particular time. But the basis, the foundation, the generals about you, that does not change, folks. And you can look back into your childhood at whatever age or whatever stage you find out, and you can see I've been this person my whole life because this is who I am. Knowing who you are is everything. Because when you go into a relationship, when you're trying to find whoever it is to fit who you are, to fit, where you are in life, when you don't know who you are, you become something that you're not. And that's where the problems come in. Because you're grabbing at straws, trying to figure this out, trying to figure that out. Knowing who you are, there's a boundary that's set. And I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to put up with that. You can't talk to me this kind of way. You can't say that. You can't call me this. You can't call me that. And it's not saying that you're this, that you that I don't want to say it that way, that you're a hardball. It's not saying that at all. But within knowing who you are, there are just some things you are not going to accept and deal with. It just is what it is. And so when somebody approaches you a certain way, especially when you're in the dating process and you're learning who you are within that person, um, you become sensitive to certain things, you become aware of other things, and all of those things are significant in terms of how you're going to pick and how you're going to bond or connect with the person that you're either looking at, or and if you're already with someone. Because I've seen it. I have conversations with people all the time. And when you don't know who you are, you wind up accepting things that you ordinarily wouldn't, because you settle in whatever area it is for things that just aren't really you. And you start changing, and I went through this. That's why I'm cringing. You literally, folks, you change your identity to fit and suit that particular person, because you just got to have you some him. You just got to have you some her. And you change the essence of who you actually are to benefit that person. Now, if the change, this is what I was told before, and I live by it. Don't change. Hear me clearly, folks. Hear me clearly. I'm having a moment. Touch a neighbor, tell him he's having a moment. Don't change for nobody unless it's for the better. Who you are is who you are. If I can't deal with that, amen. So be it. On to the next one. It does not mean I'm a bad person. It does not mean you're a bad person. It just means it's not gonna work. That person has things that I can't put up with. That I have things that they can't put up with. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because believe you me, there are 8 point something billion people on this earth. Somebody is out there for you. And you ain't supposed to be by yourself for the rest of your life unless you're a freaking nun. And if you're a nun, then amen. Do what you do. But if you're not and you have some smidget glimmer of hope, light, desire on the inside of you, whether it be, it may just be a dash of salt worth, there's somebody. Now, granted, the flip side of that coin, I know, you ain't got to tell me. I heard you. I ain't got the patience to put up with the bull. I get it. Folks, I get it. Trust me when I tell you. The older I get, the less patience I have. Sometimes I start off with a spam and a nosedive because I don't have the patience I used to because I've been dealing with this since I was 17. You follow me? So I said that all of what I said, and I'm joking, but I'm serious. Know who you are and stand on that. Let that be your foundation and let that preset the boundary. And don't get it twisted. Do not get it twisted. Yeah, you're going to have to compromise a couple of things, but not the essence of who you are, not the core being of who Price McKinney. No, that ain't happening. That ain't happening because then you become no different than an actor. And I'm not getting an Oscar for this. Then you become Price McKinney as whoever as, and you're playing a character. You're playing a role. So when you come out of character, then you go back to being you. Then we got a problem. And if you, and I'm done, if that person that you're looking at or that you're with does not give you the space and the freedom to be who you are, at some point, sooner than later, check the deuces. This is Price McKinney. Again, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Simply put, by Price McKinney. YouTube on Tuesdays. Simply put, podcast with your boy, Price McKinney. I'm not an expert. I just know what I know. And I promise you, you're going to see me soon.